Welcome to Badger Beer Hour. I am here with my friend, the pseudo beer baron, Chris Strasner, because we'll talk to a real one here real soon. And my friend Andy Huffman. How you guys doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, and we will jump right into the news. All right. I know we are shout out to our friend Landon Cherney, who is not here tonight. So I am the beer reader tonight. And I guess at this point, this is where somewhere I'm supposed to make a play on words with the news story. But I'm new here, so Chris, I'll just let you roll.
Yeah, no, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. Okay, so hey, Central Waters Milwaukee is open. We're going to lead with that story. Opening day was last Saturday. We've talked about this new brewery tap room in Milwaukee for the Amherst brewery extensively last month was that last month?
Yeah, last month already.
That was it? Okay, it seems like longer ago than that. All right. But Anello Mullica, co-founder of Central Waters, came on and talked about that a lot. It's great. It was a great interview if you want to go back and check it out. Okay, so open Saturday. This is it's in this historic 149-year-old former church on the edge of the former Pabst complex, and boy, it's really nice. It's a great space. It had been the Pabst Milwaukee location since 2017, and they remodeled this super cool building. It was pretty stark white, kind of a very clean and modern, but mixing with that, it's a 150-year-old church, so kind of a mixed bag. But Central Waters has kind of softened that a little bit. They've got these colorful logo banners. Their logo is Earth, Wind,
Sun, and Water.
Sky, beer, something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But four different banners, kind of all on each of the big walls. They've got some other artwork kind of accentuating their own history. There's a photo of Anello and Paul Graham in the brewery, their original brewery in Junction City. He thinks it was around 1999. They've got like ponytails and hippies.
They probably look very, very young.
Very young, yeah. But the centerpiece, visually, is this awesome mural by artist Amy Zaremba, who's our Madison audience may know as a bartender at Dexter's. She added this great scene. So they had this bottle wall. Greg, can you find? There's a story. I did the story on Milwaukee Mag. You might be able to show the pictures of it. Sorry, spring this on you during the show, but they have Pabst built this bottle wall that was like backlit, and it had the brown bottles backlit with to kind of this big accent wall up on the stage. And apparently some of the panels stopped working, so they kind of needed to figure it out. But Pabst had covered it up, so I mean, Anello and Eric wanted to bring that out, and they did it by covering the portions that were not working. It's something that I guess that couldn't be fixed. So and it's this awesome mural of the heron. I keep making the mistake that it's not a crane. I finally did it this time. It's a heron, taking off from the marsh, like a wooded marsh, Central Waters logo, and flying over the skyline of Milwaukee. So it's pretty cool. And the outdoor spaces are pretty exciting too. They've got a nice beer garden tucked in the back, kind of amongst these huge brick. I think I don't know if they're silos or they were fermenting tanks, but 6 stories high. And I think that's the old story. Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. Yeah. No. It was just this week. Anyway. So the beer garden is all set up. They've got 12 taps out there. in addition to 24 in the main bar. And then off to the side is 11. There's a dead end of 11th Street there. It's right against the freeway, and I-43 is right downtown Milwaukee. And they have because it's a dead end, there's no traffic there, so they're going to be able to block that street off all the time and have, block parties and kind of have this flow from the beer garden into the street when they want to have big events and stuff. So I think it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, and I saw that beer list was oof.
Yeah. Anello was telling me at the soft open that, because of COVID, they have not really been able to they haven't really gotten into their keg stockpile as quickly as they normally would, because there've been fewer events. They didn't have their anniversary party last year, obviously. So that's a big blowout of tons of the beer that they're pretty much known for, the barrel aged stuff and Black Gold and those kind of bangers. And boy, they had a lot of it going on. I think some of this is still on too, if somebody in Milwaukee wants to swing down there. They had 3 years of Black Gold, 19, 20, 21. They had Toppling Waters, which was like sold, I think that was this summer for $50 a bottle. With the collaboration
out,
with
I think is what you mean.
Yeah, the collaboration with Toppling Goliath. They had what Anello called the best beer that he's ever made, or that Central Waters has ever made, which is an iced bourbon barrel barley wine. So you freeze it and then skim off the ice to kind of, it's like almost like a method of distilling to make it stronger and kind of more intense. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. But this this is not just a tap room. This is a brewery. So they've got a 10-barrel brewery in there that Pabst put in. And head brewer Brendan Williamson, he's an alum from Good City Brewing and also Milwaukee. He had his first creations on tap as well. Little Dots was a really, really cool. There you go. There's the mural. I took that picture last week. Yeah, cool. The Little Dots is a hazy IPA that features Zappa hops, which is a really interesting hop. I kind of looked into this a little bit. It was bred from a varietal that was found growing wild in the mountains of New Mexico. And, because of that, it's kind of considered one of the few true American hops, because it doesn't have any at least obvious European forebears. It's basically a wild hop. And it had super interesting kind of expression in this beer. The fruity aspect is like kind of this tropical white wine note. It kind of reminded me of like Nelson Sauvin with a little bit of the juicy tropicality kind of turned up. But then there's also this really strong pine resin note too. So all that was happening in this like super easy drinking light body hazy IPA. I thought it was a really great first showing. And one that was put on tap after the soft open for Saturday was called Honey Dripper. It's a honey double IPA. And that was I didn't get a chance at that one, but the first barrel brew, or the first beer brewed on that system isn't going to be ready for a few weeks. It was a kind of a American style lager meant to evoke PBR, which has a little bit of history at that site. So I think it's a pretty exciting thing for Central Waters. And really that brewery district. Like I don't think Pabst never really kind of generated the traffic to that area. I think that Central Waters can. It's a kind of a funny little corner of downtown. Parking's a hassle, but I think this is going to be a destination. Bucks traffic is going to be a factor too. Fiserv Forum's a few blocks downhill. And I checked in with Eric recently, and today, and he said they did have a little bit of a bump after before and after the game last night. So I think that's going to be a thing. You've got Milwaukee Brewing right there. You got Best Place right there, which has lots of events and weddings and stuff. And then you've got a whole bunch of apartments that are pretty new in that area too. So we'll see. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting. It's a great addition, I think, to the Milwaukee beer scene for sure.
Very cool.
Andy, you got any comments?
Other than just very cool. No, I'm hoping to get down there soon. I was out of town this weekend, so that's why I wasn't able to make the trip down there this weekend. But
All right, well, that's awesome. But that's not the only opening in this month's news, Chris.
It is not. It is not. We've also got a reopening here. Forgive me as I pour my beer. Having a little.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Toasty
what
porter.
is?
nice.
Oh, I
Toasty
like
Gandy
that one.
dancer. Little porter.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, guys, New Glarus is open again.
Yay!
In just like we expected, they opened on a late Tuesday morning, in the middle of the week. Just said, hey, we're open. It's been 19 months. We're open. Here we go. So the interesting thing about this is that, they're not just throwing everything back to what it was in 2019. They're only going to be open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday. And the reason for this, stop me if you've heard this one before, staffing shortage. New Glarus President Deb Carey tells Badger Beer Hour that they typically hire 20 to 25 seasonal employees to run, the kind of the public facing parts of the brewery, the gift shop, the beer depot, the outdoor beer garden they have. None of that hiring took place this year. Obviously, they're just opening now. And it didn't really make sense to do it now because a lot of those employees are short-term. A lot of those short-term employees are students. So they're on a skeleton crew that doesn't really allow that kind of bigger staff needed to pour beers for a weekend crowd. And here's what Deb Carey had to say about that. I'm gonna quote her here. And frankly, we are a brewery. This was in an email, so it's not like she was lecturing me, but it definitely sounds like a lecture. And frankly, we are a brewery, not a pub, not a tourist attraction. We will continue to focus on making great beer to be enjoyed throughout our lovely state. I will start hiring end of March, train in April, and open on Saturdays in May. No more Sundays. We all need a break. So I'm going to take exception to at least one of those statements. The tourist attraction thing.
I was about to say,
right. That's why I'm shaking my head here.
I am not a role model vibes to that statement, because anybody who's been out there, you go through the license plates. You go through the license plates in the parking lot, and there's all kinds of out-of-staters, and it's a small village where that brewery is arguably the biggest draw there. There's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff in town, but this historical Swiss heritage and all that stuff. Look at that. There you go. But I mean, come on, like,
yeah.
And I
top of the hill there too. Like, you're a tourist destination as well as
sure.
a brewery. Like,
for sure.
Right. I love that, but I'm not buying that part.
Yeah. So I mean, Toppler's and the Glarus Stube and all those restaurants and cheese and gift shops and the little museums and stuff like that. I mean, this is big news for them, but I don't think it's quite the weekend hours that they were hoping for. So
right,
we'll see.
right.
Oh, what do you guys? You guys have any thoughts on that one?
Spotted cow might be Wisconsin's biggest export. Yeah,
it could be.
I have been told that
that
the largest off-premise New Glarus account in the state is the Kenosha Woodman's, which is about a mile and a half from the state line. So
yeah,
sounds about right.
Yep.
Right. Excellent. All right.
And then one other note on New Glarus. Just after we were a week late last month, and just after that show, Deb Carey filed, I guess it was like kind of a counter suit to the investors lawsuit that you guys talked about back in August. This one is a defamation suit where she's accusing the law firm of the investors that sued her of making multiple false statements that damaged her and the business's reputation. And something that, the suit also names dozens of like unnamed individuals who, I don't know if those are, I'm not sure how that all works, but they allegedly contributed to the alleged defamation, and also a handful of news outlets that ran stories on the lawsuit, which I don't know a lot about other aspects of like business law, but I know a little bit about libel, and that's going to be a really tough claim to win. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I
Mhm.
I don't know. It
Mhm.
sounds like hitting back. This looks to me like hitting back against, um, what she perceived as a frivolous lawsuit and hitting hard.
Yeah, there's so much here to unpack. I don't even want to. I
You
don't
want
know.
to skip it? Should we just go on to the
Well,
next
not skip
new
it. I
barrel?
mean, we talked about it, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's really nothing that I'm not a. None of us are legal wonks here, and this sounds like we're in a legal wonk
Yeah.
territory. If that
Right.
makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until it affects whether I can get my smoked porter out of them.
Oh,
You know what I mean? Then I'm not concerned. I'm sorry,
Greg,
I'm just not.
one thing I should mention about the reopening of everything at New Glarus is they have 3 new beers just sitting in the depot. Normally they do like releases and they have a day where they
Yeah,
all go on sale and they'll do a little
yep.
event. No, they didn't do that this time. But Louis Livingston Garcia, a Madison area beer journalist, posted tweeted a few photos of there's a vintage 2020, which is not necessarily a surprise. That's a goose that they do every year, 3-year blend of sour, spontaneously fermented sour ale. They have a melange, like a fruit melange beer, another wild sour cave thing with a bunch of different fruits. Unclear exactly what that is. Sounds pretty good. And then a bourbon barrel coffee vanilla cocoa, bourbon barrel imperial stout with coffee, vanilla, and cacao, which is very, very much not the kind of thing that you'd expect to see from New Glarus. So, $15 a bottle. Those they do those 500 milliliter bottles.
Yes.
So
just sitting down there and with no announcement.
That's what
wow.
you want to go. I mean, obviously that beer garden is awesome. Up on the hill, great views.
It's a tourist,
especially this time of year. But
no, it's not, Greg. She said it isn't.
All right. Well, a bourbon barrel beer though from New Glarus is something else, and that's worthy of.
They have done bourbon before, but not much in the stout range or stout kind of territory. Usually they're doing, a sour fruit beer in bourbon. So this is definitely something new.
Chris, can you go over real quick? They're no, so they're only Monday through Friday, right?
Monday through Friday, 10 to 5. Yeah.
Excellent.
And actually not excellent for most of the feedback I've heard on that has been thumbs down for that. But I mean, better than being closed. But
that's what I'm saying.
That's not what people had hoped for.
Right. The excellent part for me is that they're open and I can just roll down there now. Again, it's not as accessible as it normally is, and it's not a tourist attraction anymore, Andy. Right. So, anymore. So, we will respect that. But there's another expansion to report at one of the most interesting, not only breweries in Wisconsin. I mean, it's a brewery in Wisconsin, but this brewery touches a lot of people in a lot of different states.
Yes. Just like an octopus, it has tentacles in many different areas. So this is Octopi Brewing. So that was a little. See, I'm stepping up. Greg's not doing any puns, so I thought I'd step in. This is Octopi Brewing in Waunakee, right outside Madison. Some of you may know about Octopi because it's primarily, or some of you may not know about Octopi because it's primarily a contract brewery. So that means they make beer and actually a whole bunch of other beverages for other companies to sell under their own name. So Octopi opened in 2015 and has basically been expanding ever since. My former colleague, I guess, Barry Adams at the State Journal wrote a story about this latest one, and it is a doozy. It is a $72 million project. They're adding 300,000 square feet that will bring the brewery's capacity to 1 million barrels a year. They're going to be around or somewhere north of 230,000 this year. And this includes like a 200,000 square foot warehouse that's across the street from the main brewery. And there's a big, there's an overhead shot of the existing brewery and the expansion, which is bigger than the original one, and then there's a whole big spot across the street that's going to be this warehouse, packaging, and distribution center. So I don't know if they're going to be I guess I don't know if they're bringing the liquid over there, or if it's just like I'm not sure. But it's big. It's big. 152 employees they have right now, and it'll be up to about 200 by the time the expansion is finished. That's one of the biggest employers in Waunakee, which is the only Waunakee in the whole world, as you'll know if you've ever been to Waunakee. They've got it right there on the sign.
Yes.
And what's happening in there, I mean, so Contract Brewery, Octopi has a handful of its own beers that they sell under Octopi. Beer geeks probably know that that founder Isaac Shawaki is half of the ownership group of Untitled Art with Levi Funk of Funk Factory. So Untitled, people think like, oh, Untitled Art is Octopi, and I mean it's obviously made there, but it's not really. It's not exactly a one-to. It's not like it's not an Octopi house brand in the way that Octopi's actual beers are. But they make 500 different brands, and I always scoff at using the term brand to describe a beer, but in this case, it's well beyond that. They've got hard seltzer, hard cider, canned cocktails, tons of non-alcoholic beverages like teas, sodas, coffees, flavored waters. I mean, this brewery was built, just 6 years ago to be kind of at the leading edge of whatever you want to do, we can do it. We talked about the Lakefront NA, the Lakefront River West Stein NA, right? Did we do a beer spotlight on that?
Yes,
Back in June, maybe.
Before my time. Sounds right.
Yes.
But I mean, that's a Lakefront beer that was made at Octopi. Because Lakefront doesn't have the dealcoholization technology, and Octopi does. So I mean, there's tons of different stuff that they can make.
The Trader Joe beers. They make the Trader Joe beers.
Yeah. I mean, if you look, and not every beer that's made there has Waunakee, Wisconsin on the label. Depending on the type of legal arrangement that's being made, it doesn't. If it's some of them do say that, like it's Trader Jose's Mexican lager brewed in Waunakee, Trader Jose Brewing Company, Waunakee, Wisconsin. If it says Waunakee, Wisconsin,
it's Octopi.
It's made at Octopi, unless you're drinking a beer at Lone Girl, the brew pub in Waunakee, which good for you.
But then it says Lone Girl.
But you're not going to be buying that in like Tallahassee,
Right.
So,
Right.
There you go. So I mean, business is good, obviously.
Seems to be.
Shawaki tells Barry Adams that revenue this year will top $30 million, which I don't know. I don't talk dollars and cents very often with the brewery people that I talk to, so I don't really have a good sense of like where that is and how big. I mean, obviously $30 million is a lot of money.
It's good.
but check this out. In 2020, which is again 5 years into its opening, Octopi saw 700% growth, 700%, and that was good enough for a spot on Inc. magazine's list of the fastest growing companies in the country. So
yeah, investors like those numbers.
That's what'll
good.
get you $1 million,
Right.
a $72 million expansion, and that
Right.
is the news for October.
Wait. Are you sure? Are you sure we're not missing anything?
Well, yeah, okay. So this is kind of a non-news thing, I guess. But
Real quick,
we were expecting to have some pretty big news this month about the future of Ale Asylum, but unfortunately, there's really nothing to report on that yet. So I was told about 7 weeks ago that the liquidation sale for Ale Asylum that they were hoping to avoid had been scheduled for October 13th. That was last week ago today. And that was canceled, so it didn't happen. And I checked in with Otto Dilba, co-founder of Ale Asylum, and my main source over there, and he said this: it's going well. I should have a little more detail to provide in the next few weeks. So, I mean, considering the liquidation sale was called off, I'm assuming that some kind of turnkey sale, like where what they were exploring was an outright sale purchase, like where somebody that's not Ale Asylum would buy basically everything about Ale Asylum, the brewery, the
brand.
the brewery. The building is not owned by them, but they would take over the lease and the debt and all the stuff, and the brands. And Otto was pretty adamant that no matter that they had enough interest from potential acquirers that or partners, that would say, hey, I'm going to come in and we can share this space and you do half and I do half and whatever. That no matter what, he said he was 100% confident. This was a while ago, that Ale Asylum would continue as a thing going forward after whatever, either the sale or the partnership. So my assumption is that that's still being negotiated, or maybe it isn't quite ready to announce yet. Details are still being hammered out, but we'll see. A few weeks, that puts us right in the thick of the November stream. So stay tuned.
Yeah, and that's going to be big around here. Obviously, outside of Octopi, Ale Asylum is the biggest brewer in this area. And they also have extensive reach into the state. So this is a big story. Thanks, Chris, for the news. It's awesome. Wonderful. Let's get this right.
All right. Oh boy, I'm big there. Okay. So you guys know that I go by the name of my column for the State Journal is called The Beer Baron. That is kind of embarrassing tonight, because I am joined by an actual beer baron from Wisconsin. I'm thrilled to welcome to Badger Beer Hour Dick Leinenkugel, President and Chief Beer Merchant of Jacob Leinenkugel Brewing Company in Chippewa Falls, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Dick, thanks for joining us.
Chris, I didn't think you were ever going to end with the news. I'm sitting here patiently waiting to do this.
Oh, what do you got?
The original.
Leinenkugel
original, and join you and Big Daddy Porter and Andy on the call tonight. So thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. I wish I should have gotten a Leinenkugel to have with you, because that's a nice beer. All right. Well, Dick, the thing that finally spurred us to reach out to you to join us was actually probably one of the smallest projects that Leine's has done in recent years, of course. But let's start by talking about the new pilot brewery going into the Leine Lodge in Chippewa Falls. What can you tell us?
I thought you were talking about the new mural that we painted on the wall at the Leine Lodge today. That's really a nice project. A new pilot brewery going in Chippewa Falls at the Leine Lodge. I gave up my office as part of the space, so now I sit right on the floor to the Leine Lodge on one of our communal tables there, and I just make everybody nervous. I'm sitting there, watching and seeing what's going on every day at the Leine Lodge. But it's been kind of fun. To borrow Jim Cook's analogy, he would always talk about Julia Child, cooking in a kitchen. And even though it wasn't his kitchen, it was still his brewmasters in there. I kind of look at John Hensley, our master brewer, as a master chef. And we're like providing John with a new kitchen to cook in. And this one isn't 175 barrels at a time. It's 3 to 7 barrels at a time.
Okay. So
he's going to be able to experiment and come up with some new innovations and maybe bring back some old favorites as well.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. First things first. So this is happening this is in the Leine Lodge, which is. Tell us what the Leine's Lodge. I mean, I know it's like a tap room, gift shop.
Yeah, so that's
offices.
That's that tourist destination that is open, and we've been open since June of 2020. We're open 7 days a week, and that's what we are. This is where people come and check in for their brewery tours, and can buy some merchandise, sample our beers, and kind of come and see where everything first happened in Chippewa Falls in 1867 with my great-great-grandfather. But we took what we called our direct-to-consumer warehouse, so where we stored the merchandise and shipped everything out that was coming in online. We took that space, which was about 2,500 square feet, and moved that over to another warehouse on the brewery grounds. So we opened up that space. That space was actually kind of where my office was as well. And we put in the brew system as well as the tanks, replumbed, repiped, put in ventilation, a mill room, and that's all going in that space. So we're really excited about it. Everything's just getting installed as we speak. We hope to be able to commission it sometime at the end of November, first part of December, and start putting in our first brews at that time.
Okay. And you mentioned bringing back some things. It's kind of exciting. Like, what does this mean for? I mean, obviously, 175 barrels is that's a big batch. I mean, that is you're not going to make something that you're just kind of throwing against the wall at that scale. But for 3 to 5, 7 barrels, that's. I mean, what do you expect to see out of this?
Yeah, so this will give us the flexibility to test some things, Chris. So we can take it right from that brewery, put it on draft at the Leinenkugel Lodge, get some immediate feedback from our drinkers that are coming in to see us at the Leinenkugel Lodge. We could also scale it, do a little bit more, take it out to a distributor market or two, and get some feedback from distributors and their customers at select on-premise accounts. And then if we land on something that we think, can go into the big brewery and will be the next summer shandy, of course, we'll scale it up. But that's going to give us that flexibility to test some new things. But I also want to, kind of as a nod to our past, take a look at those hyphenated beers that we have in our portfolio. Things like the Big Eddie beers. We have a lot of fans of Big Butt Doppelbock, Leinenkugel's Apple Spice. There's a lot of them. Leine's Ice, is a local favorite. So we could take a look at bringing back some of those beers at a smaller scale and putting them on draft at the Leinenkugel Lodge.
Paige is lobbying for Fireside Nut Brown. That was a favorite of mine
yeah,
as well.
Sure.
Nice.
Yeah, that's another one.
So, I mean, there's not a packaging. I mean, these are all these would all be draft only offerings, at least off of this new brewery, right? That's for the Leine's Lodge and pretty much it, right?
Yeah, so no plans at this point to put in any smaller scale packaging. We do have a crawler system at our Leinenkugel Lodge, so we're able to currently do 32-ounce can crawlers. I'm going to be purchasing a 12-ounce can crawler machine, so we might be able to do some 4 or 6 packs of smaller sizes for people to take home from our Leinenkugel Lodge, but that's for the future. Gotcha.
I mean, you mentioned Big Eddie. I think, did I see that you were getting into one of your last 2011s, the Imperial Stouts?
Well, I brought something for you, Chris, tonight. I went down to the cellar, and this is the original. A lot of people don't know that
Imperial
our
IPA,
original,
that's right.
Big Eddie Imperial IPA, it started with the Imperial IPA in 2007. We had the Home Brewers Guild from Madison come over to the 10th Street Brewery, and Greg Walter brewed this beer first. And then the hop shortage happened and the warehouse fire out in Portland, I think. And a lot of the hops were destroyed, and we couldn't get hops to do an Imperial IPA. So that's when we came out with the Big Eddie Russian Imperial Stout. And this is actually the original 2007 first one that we produced. And I actually have in my possession I don't want to open up that one, but I have a 2012.
Yeah.
That I'm going to just tease you tonight, Chris, and I'm going to actually open it. I'm going to pour it. Look at this. Oh, it's got a little pop to it yet. Gonna put it into the Big Eddie glass. Oh, man.
Okay, so I went looking in my cellar to make sure that I didn't have one, because I remember having, God, it wasn't even that long ago. I think it was within the last year where I got I got in my last one. I mean, it really is a beer that I think would hold up in an age where we are drinking beers like this a lot more often. Give us some
travels well, ages well. That's what we put
Yeah.
on the look at that thing. Man, that head retention is just incredible. I'm going to take a quaff now.
A little leathery.
It's not quite as fresh, as it used to be, but it's got a lot of nice muted raisin to it, chocolate, a little toffee. Still pretty damn good. This holds up really well. This is a real treat for me. 2012.
Oh man, I'm pretty sure.
Hey, by
that
the
was
way,
the one that
I thought all of you should know that it was in 1984 that my wife Jean and I got married, 37 years ago. Got married in Chippewa Falls. And that Sunday night on our way back to Chicago, where we were living at the time, we spent our honeymoon night in the village of New Glarus, Wisconsin.
Mm. Any comment? I don't think there was a brewery there at that point.
There was
right?
not a brewery there in 1984. No. It was a quaint little town, a little village, and we had a nice meal and some beers.
Nice. All right. Okay. Wow. That's not the direction that I thought this interview was going to go. So, but it's fascinating. Okay. So, So I want to talk about Leine's kind of in a little bit in the bigger picture. Leine's meaning like, I don't know. It's weird. Is it weird that the company you work for is basically the same as your last name? I'm sure you get used to it after, your whole life, but I don't know. It just occurred to me as I'm saying, I want to talk about Leine's, and I'm like, well, you are Leine. So.
Yeah, well, in many ways, it's humbling to see the appreciation that our fans have for our beers. Yeah, we grew up, in Chippewa Falls, and it didn't really seem special to us. We were small at the time, relatively small, 75,000 barrels or so, mostly sold within a 100-mile radius of Chippewa Falls. I remember, my dad bringing Jake and me down to the brewery on Saturdays. He was mostly traveling throughout the state of Wisconsin, selling Leinenkugels to his distributors and then working with his distributors to open up new accounts. But on Saturdays, he'd take us down to the brewery, and while he checked the mail and read the Wall Street Journal, we would, explore around the brewery. So a lot of fond memories of growing up around the brewery. Of course, worked there during my summers of college. Worked on a route truck and stapled cases for one summer, and then worked on the bottling line for another summer. Also gave tours before I was 18 and able to work in the brewery. And, we were Teamsters, had to join the union even. So, you grow up in the business, and it kind of becomes in your blood. So I don't think it's, anything special. It's just kind of what we did, who we are.
Yeah, Dick, you told me a story up in the bar of the 10th Street brewery quite a few years ago now, that I wonder, it was the hop room, and there was I guess there's like a room where they kept all the hops at the brewery, and I remember you telling me that was not the place that you liked. Am I remembering that correctly?
Well, no, I mean, the hop room was great. Back then, Chris, and when we used whole cone hops. Yeah. Cluster hops would come in via rail car, and we had all those stored in there. I mean, it's quite odoriferous, the smell of the hops and everything, but we would take tours in there, and the bales would be in there, and you would take tours and show them, taking the hops, the whole cone hops in your hands, grinding them up, showing them the yellow substance, the lupulin, which the brewer wants to get into the beer, bitterness and aroma into the beer. But the hop room was always one of my favorite places to take tours because, you could really show them and they could put their hands on one of the ingredients of beer. So it was always a lot of fun.
Gotcha. I think we were launching you guys were launching the IPL at that time, and having a hop forward beer for Leinenkugel was a little bit different at that time. So I garbled up the story a little bit. But,
probably the story was, Chris, is I'm not a fan of hops in beer.
Right.
We're Germans, and the German beers are pretty well balanced. They don't really. They use hops as a way to balance the sweetness of malt. And, for us to kind of venture outside of that and to do an IPL at the time, was quite adventurous. And I think what we're doing now with, our Leinenkugel's Lemon Haze IPA is kind of taking a spin on the hazy IPA style, using the natural lemonade flavor that's in our Leinenkugel's Summer Shandy, but yet brewing it to be an IPA and then flavoring it with that, it kind of makes it more in what the Leinenkugel style is now. And beer's doing very well. And, it's a beer I like too, as well. So, hey, I've opened my horizons to IPAs over the last few years as well.
Nice. I wanted to ask about you held up the can, and I was reminded that there's a change to that branding that's happened in the last I guess year or so. You dropped the Indian Maiden logo from the packaging. Can you just talk a little bit about what brought about that change and kind of balancing the the tradition of that. I mean, 100 years, right? I mean, a long time, versus, deciding to make that change.
Yeah. So, when you look back at our history, Chris, Jacob Leinenkugel, when he first started, probably didn't brand his beer, right? I mean, he was one of two breweries in Chippewa Falls. It was probably known as Jacob's Lager.
It said beer on the side,
Yeah, it said beer. He delivered kegs. It was mostly draft. Maybe people brought their pails to the brewery and filled them up. But when he started branding the beer, he called it Pilsner. And on the trademark, the first brewery trademark of the J. Leinenkugel Brewing Company was this waterfall. Looked very much like this depiction, J. Leinenkugel Brewing Company, Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. So that was his first brewery trademark. It wasn't until after Prohibition that the third generation of the family brought back beer and that original recipe, Jacob's Pilsner, and branded it as Chippewa's Pride beer. So the pride of the Chippewas, the original Ojibwa tribe that lived in Northwest Wisconsin and, lived and hunted and fished and worked in and around Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. And as a tribute to that Native American tribe, Jacob, or the third generation of the family, called their beer Chippewa's Pride beer. It later became Leinenkugel's Chippewa's Pride beer, featured the Indian Maiden, and then just Leinenkugel's. But as I always tell people, throughout our history, we have not exclusively used the Indian Maiden on the logo. When we first came out with Leinenkugel's Red Lager back in the early 1990s, 1993 or 4, it featured our barn on the logo. When we first did Leinenkugel's Honey Weiss, it featured a farmer thrashing wheat. When we first did Berry Weiss, it was a bird picking some blackberries out of a bush. So, there were times when we didn't use the Indian Maiden. I think a lot of people think that we always, had that Indian Maiden, but I think we embarked on a refreshment of our label and our look. we landed on something that people really liked. They liked the throwback to our heritage of Chippewa Falls and the original brewery trademark. And, we went with that.
Okay, great. One of the things, so usually we cover this in the news section, but I since this was, so, there are truck crashes, beer trucks crash.
Yeah, they do.
I think we've had at least 2 or 3 of them in the news section, and everybody always, I don't know, people love that story because it's like, oh my God, no, or oh my God, look at all that beer, I wish I was there, or whatever it is. But I need to ask you about this one because it was a whole semi full of Leine's Oktoberfest. So what's going on with that?
Fake news.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's how WEAU out of Eau Claire, Channel 13, reported it. It was misinformation. It was Leinenkugel's Toasted Bock. So our new winter seasonal, Chris, it was going down to the distribution center where it's going to be married up with other loads of Molson Coors products out of Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yeah, so we lost a truckload, but we put 300 more barrels into the brew cycle. So we'll be able to make that up. And there should be no shortages of Leinenkugel's Toasted Bock unless our drinkers drink us out of it, which I hope happens.
Well, I know Andy was getting into one this week already.
Oh, great! Yeah, I haven't had it.
He was hoping that it was a fresh one from this year, not something that was left over from last
year.
No,
it should be. It came out last week.
Yeah.
As well as our chocolate dunkel.
Yeah, the chocolate dunkel. This is kind of a new beer this year, right?
It is.
He's got one. He's ready.
Yeah, I do. So I'm really excited about this, but it's mostly because I really love chocolate. We're going to do Snowdrift Vanilla Porter, but it's only going to be in the Leinenkugels Brewology pack, our variety pack. So this will be a limited release brand that will be out on the shelves during the same time period as our Leinenkugels Toasted Bock, basically now through whenever it runs out. So I'm thinking, January or early February. We use a dry hop process, and the beer sits on cocoa nibs to get the flavor in there. So, I mean, it's absolutely tremendous. Rich, dark, chocolatey. You don't have to have chocolate cake or ice cream for dessert. Yeah. You can just have Leinenkugels chocolate dunkel. It's going to be one of those you want to snuggle up by the fire on a cold winter's night and really enjoy this beer. It's fabulous.
Nice. When I think about the beers that Leine's has done really well that have kind of resonated with me, Snowdrift is one. What was the one? Well, I mean, Toasted Bock I thought was really good too.
Great beer. And one of my favorites, Chris.
It's interesting. If you had asked me 10 years ago where I thought Leine's would be in 2021, I didn't think it would be like, yeah, they're doing really well with a lot of dark beers, but here we are, So I guess hats off.
Our original, our original dark lager, Creamy Dark, which we now call Dark Lager, is actually our most award-winning beer. When you look at the medals that we've won in Great American Beer Festival or World Beer Cup in that American Dark Lager category, Leinenkugels Creamy Dark, now Dark Lager, has garnered a lot of those medals. So we've been successful producing those beers.
Awesome. All right, Dick, I've got one more thing I want to ask you. And I asked you, before this interview, I asked you, things that you might want to talk about. And there was one that I felt like that you said that I could hear the hurt in your, and this was last week when everything was a little bit more fresh, but I'll just ask the question the way you suggested it could be asked. Did you jinx Christian Yelich with your sponsorship?
So there's a little background story there, Chris. My daughter, Katie, who's joined us in the business now, Katie works on the marketing team, has really led the Christian Yelich partnership. And she's met Christian, has been out, doing the filming of the spots this spring in Arizona, and has become good friends with Christian's management team, et cetera. So I'm actually putting it all on her.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not us. It's
So you
it's
didn't,
on
yeah,
my
you
daughter
didn't.
Katie. I didn't do it, no, but I can tell you that if you want to go to Leinenkugel.com, we do have these great jerseys, and they aren't selling all that well right now. So if you can put that out to your fans out there, the LH22 with the Leinenkugel's logo on the front, they are available at Leinenkugel.com.
There you go. I do want to throw it open to any of my co-hosts if you guys have a question for Dick that wasn't asked.
Yeah. So just going back to the layout of the Leinie Lodge, I've been there a couple times, and I'm just having a little bit of trouble wrapping my head around where this new system actually is. Is it on the floor where the merchandise used to be, or is it somewhere that wasn't like open to the public at the time?
Yeah, that's it exactly, Andy. You never really saw the area where it was. So as you walked in the doors to the Leinie Lodge, of course, we have our four-sided big stone fireplace.
Mm-hmm.
And to the left of that, as you walked in, there was the registers, where you would take your merchandise, and right behind that was my office. And then there was an area right adjacent to that. So that is where we did all the merch for the floor, the retail floor, stored that. Our keg cooler is also back there. So that's exactly where all of the brewing equipment is going, is in that space, about 2,500 square feet of a 15,000 square foot building.
Wow. It's hard to imagine that there was that much space hidden away there.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. Very cool.
And it's a big timber building, so the ceilings were open. We didn't have to do a lot there. Have to put in some ventilation, some piping, obviously some utilities, water and sewer, but pretty good place to build it. And we're going to have a big window so people will be able to look in. And we're actually going to do a little bit of a bar in there as well, kind of a sampling bar and a little meeting space. So if people want to have a meeting in a brewery and do some specific sampling afterwards, we're going to be able to accommodate that.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Looking forward to visiting at some point.
Well, Dick, thank you for joining us and tantalizing us with cellar Big Eddies and taking us down memory lane. And hopefully we'll be able to get some of those into our mouths pretty soon. That's
maybe some fresh ones coming from the Pilot Brewery system in Chippewa Falls.
It'd be great. Yeah. I got to put in a plug for, I don't know if it's my favorite Big Eddy, but it's definitely close. It was the Wee Heavy. That beer had one of the best aromas that I can recall. Like for some reason, that like kind of toffee. Oh man!
This is the
that's the Uber Oktoberfest. Yeah,
that was probably my favorite, Chris. But yeah, the Dutch Ale was interesting. The Wee Heavy, yeah.
You have your whole cellar over there, Dick?
Don't have them all.
I was going to have them all.
I want to can down to that.
I had forgotten about this one, the Royal Nectar.
Oh, that's right.
That one was amazing.
Like the braggot is kind of a braggot.
Yeah.
Honey.
Yeah. That's an amazing memory you have, Chris.
Dude,
I'm a fan of these.
I spend a lot of time thinking about beer, so.
I was going to say, this is the best beer room ever. He's just pulling eddies out of like nowhere. It's amazing. That's just my comment, and I'll leave after that.
I'm like my brother John. We're all hoarders, and I have a few.
I gotta say, hoarding the Imperial IPA. That's 14 years now going on. 14 years?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that one's gonna hold up. Kind of a barley wine thing going on now.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the IPA is going to taste like. I think I'll leave this one in the bottle, but let me tell you that that Big Eddie Russian Imperial Stout holds up really well. Yeah, outstanding.
Awesome. All right,
Great to
Dick,
be
thanks for
with
sharing.
you and all your listeners and fans out there, and keep doing your good work, guys. Taproom Travelers is fantastic, and Chris, you're doing a great job as the beer baron and now with Milwaukee Magazine. So congrats.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so
Cheers.
much. Dick, thanks for the time. Glad we could give you an excuse to get into the Big Eddies, I guess.
Well, yeah, and keep me up past 8:30 at night.
There you go. All right. Cheers, Dick. Thanks.
Prost.
What's up, Chris? That was amazing. That's awesome. Really, that was cool.
Yeah. I had high hopes for that interview, and I thought it was going to be really interesting, and it was. So,
Dick, you are more than welcome to join us. You're will more. If it's not past your bedtime, Dick, you can stay in the green room, and we'll be done here soon. But Chris, you're going to jump on our beer spotlight for this evening.
That's right. Okay. So,
bye.
This is a new beer from Door County Brewing, and I need to call up some information about this beer, which I should have done earlier. But it's it's called Dark Skies Dark Lager. We were just talking with Dick about dark lagers, and they got some dark lagers coming, and they've got some dark lagers, that are a kind of a linchpin of their. I believe creamy, formerly known as Creamy Dark, is a year-rounder for them, and clearly like a focus for Leine's, which is cool. Whoops. Sorry, you got to see me. Okay. Okay. So Dark Skies. Sorry, gathering my thoughts. The name, the theme, it's got a really nice label. You can see, is based on Newport State Park, which is one of the, I believe it's the only certified dark sky areas of Wisconsin, and it is awesome. If you go out there at night, especially when there's like a low moon, I think it might be a full moon tonight or close to it. Go there when the moon is low or not in the sky, and it's just like stars forever. It's awesome. So they brewed this dark lager with the idea, kind of as an homage to that. And my favorite part about this is we're gonna me, I'm kind of a oh boy, I'm making a mess here. All right, maybe I'm just gonna pour it first. All right, I'm gonna pour it first. Beautiful, pretty thick dark lager. Chestnut brown to pretty much really black. And I obviously we're spotlighting this beer because I think it's pretty awesome. It's got, when I saw dark lager, I think Schwarzbier, which is a pretty balanced, I guess, or if anything, maybe a little bit on the hoppier side of that kind of sweet bitter balance. And this beer is just a chocolate bomb. It's not. Maybe I shouldn't quite say that. I don't know. Andy, you have some thoughts on this beer. Do you want to jump in?
I do. So yeah, I was actually up in Door County, and I didn't know the Newport State Park thing because my wife and I were actually hiking there. So
there you go.
Little overlap there.
Bailey's Harbor. The brewery is based in Bailey's Harbor, and it's not far from that. It's not far from.
It was like a 15-minute drive, something like that. Yeah.
So before we go any further about the kind of tasting of this beer, I just want to point out that I'm like one of these guys that'll take the plastic wrap off of these cans every once in a while, and in doing so, I mean, I knew this before, but check this out. Guess where Door County Brewing is contract brewing these days?
Is it not Wanakee anymore?
Nope. That's a Three Sheep Spills can,
yeah,
my friend.
I see that.
So, there's been a lot of changes at Door County Brewing in the last year. The kind of founders and faces of the brewery, Danny McMahon and John McMahon, father son, have left the company. John is, I believe, he's operating a restaurant bar. Cafe kind of thing in Door County still, and Danny, who was the kind of the brewing, I guess the brewmaster or head brewer, is out at a brewery in suburban Minneapolis. So they're now out. They this is a brewery that's been very upfront about, hey, we can't make all the beer that we want to in Door County. So they do have a brewery there. That's where they make all the Hacienda beers, which is Hacienda is a kind of a sub label of Door County, and they've been doing. What's that?
Sorry to interrupt, but I was actually corrected on the pronunciation of that from my wife, who speaks Spanish, and it's Hacienda.
Hacienda.
The H is silent. So
okay, yeah, I'm not sure. Well, okay, yeah.
But maybe they pronounce
proper.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they've been and they were at Octopi for a long time. They had been at other places,
Sand Creek,
other contract brewers before that, because Octopi wasn't around when they started. I think it was 2013, 2014 maybe.
Somewhere
for Door County Brewing.
Sounds about right.
But this is a pretty. And I guess sometimes
gotta use the packaging.
You've got a can. You gotta get the product out. There's packaging shortages all over the place. Various types of packaging, and I think this was just make it work kind of situation. So,
sure.
I don't. It's not calling out anybody, but I will say that I think this is one of the best beers that Door County has put out in quite a while. I was a fan of Silurian Stout and the original, and then when they made it with vanilla, they started making it with vanilla. I've liked Polka King Porter. I like Door County Brewing. I love I kind of love the ethos of what they did. That concept of, hey, we're going to do this in Door County. Of course, they're not doing all of it in Door County,
right?
But if you've ever been to that tap room up in Bailey's Harbor, it is one of the best. It is one of the best places in Wisconsin beer, period.
They struck gold with that location as well. Just right on the main drag there. Like if you're going up 57, you drive right by it, and like now they have outdoor seating right in front of it, so you see, oh hey, there's a lot of people there.
That little cool ship shed, is really cool. And I don't know. I think this is exactly what I want a dark lager to be. It's little roasty, a little bit of chocolate. It's not, I guess you kind of get these impressions of sweetness without really actually the sweetness.
Yeah, and I will say, so pretty
well balanced.
I was a little, let's say, harsher on my criticism.
You were more meh, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not meh, but it did warm up nicely. I will say that. So I had this over the weekend, and to me, it tasted too similar to Polka King. I was like, this just kind of tastes like a lighter version of it. But once it warmed up, it did start to taste better, or more different, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's just it tasted like more of the same to me. But I'm also not like the biggest like connoisseur of these types of beers either. So like take my criticism with a grain of salt.
No. It's I don't know. I got a 6-pack and I was planning to review it for my column, but I discovered that it's basically at the end of its run. It came out in August.
Really?
And I didn't see it anywhere until just recently. So if you're interested in this beer, you better pick it up quick, because it's not going to be around very long, and it's being replaced in the Door County seasonal rotation by Silurian Stout, which we know has been around, but they're bringing it back to the original, it's a new recipe that's closer to the spirit of the original beer, which which was a straight ahead stout, a little on the sweet side, but not a milk stout. And then they, in recent years, they kind of switched it over to a vanilla stout.
Vanilla, which is the only version I've had of that. So I'll be interested to try the.
Yeah, and I like the vanilla version. I like the vanilla version, but this is actually a new. It's going to be an oatmeal stout. So kind of, it's not exactly what it was before. It's certainly not the vanilla, adjuncts that it had been most recently. So I'm looking forward to that one. I believe that is dropping in November.
Okay.
Let me check my. Yes. So, so that's happening. I don't know. That's it.
Yeah.
Greg, I bet you'd like this one.
I know you would.
With your porter likes. Do we have a host? Do we have a signal caller here?
Yes, we have a signal caller here. I am here to talk to y'all about real quick. We do have this wonderful call and text Badger Beer Hour hotline. I believe it's still working. Sorry. Here is where you can contact any of us. You can contact Chris Josner. You can contact Andy. You can contact Landon. You can get through to the Taproom Travelers. Big Daddy Porter, as Dick just called me. Yes. We are happy to take your suggestions, your comments, your feedback, your suggestions for anything that you want to see here. We did not do we did not do events this month because we couldn't find any. So we're going to kind of lean on y'all to give us some events if you have anything. And on that note, we are all going to come back on and say goodbye to you until the next Badger Beer Hour, which is November 17th at 8 p.m., the week before my favorite holiday and a great beer pairing holiday, which is Thanksgiving. Save those pumpkin beers, Chris, that you got, especially those big ones. Those big pumpkin beers are great, especially if you have to deal with crazy family or that crazy uncle, or, at the end of Thanksgiving where you're just really looking for, after all that food, you're looking for something that's going to maybe knock you out a little bit or sit you down after that Thanksgiving nap. But we'll be there a week before that. Any final parting shots? Thank you, Chris, again for securing a wonderful, fantastic interview. You do great every month, and this is tonight was no exception.
Thanks,
all
man.
right. Nothing else to say here? Okay.